My question is,
Yeah.
Kamas, Vatsyayana's text is okay. Yeah, it's respected more by the West than by Indians or Hindus. Chanakya's Arthashastra is also a fine text. He was not trying to, either Vatsyayana or Kautilya, they were not trying to define Hinduism's Purusharthas comprehensively. They were books at some point of time that apply contextually to either Arthashastra or Kamashastra at that certain periods of time, as you rightly mentioned, to address the practices, to practically win the neighboring kingdom, whatever, as you mentioned. Now, these are not, even to me, these two texts are not defining Purushartha comprehensively from a dharmic perspective. If I have to understand Purushartha, I would read these two books for my two parts of the four-part Purushartha, or three-part, as you rightly mentioned. So she lacks teeth and substance to address Hinduism's Purushartha comprehensively by just addressing two texts and quoting things out of context. So why is this book so relevant to us, and why does she become an esteemed Hindu scholar in the eyes of the world?
Well, you see, let me take the first part of your observation. Vatsyayan and Chanakya, they are both talking of Artha and Kam respectively within the framework of the three Purusharthas. There is no doubt. See, it's there. Because they cannot do it singly. They are doing it. But in the Indian tradition, a Shastra is written for a particular application. You see, today we are reading Shastras as a total body of texts, and then we are saying that what do they represent? They all represent Hinduism. Now, this was not the case. These are practical books. Shastra is for application. There is, of course, a general framework of what is dharma, what is adharma, what is purushartha, and you will try to understand them by reading not just one shastra, but by all the shastras. So, ideally in classical India, the person who read various shastras, not just one shastra, he was considered learned. He was a dhurandhara. Dhurandhar means one who has the dhuri, and his dhuri was on wheels or many wheels. So many shastras. He had a comprehensive understanding. Now that is the general approach, but a particular shastra is for application in a given area. So Dharma Shastra is about what is your conduct from beginning of your life, that is from your birth till your death. So all that achar, all that conduct will be dharma. And that will not be moksha, by the way. Because if you want to understand moksha, then you will have to read the text for moksha. You will have to read the text of Brahma Gyan, or you would have to read the text of Tantra, or the text of the Buddhist or the Jain tradition of philosophy. In order to do a particular area of activity in life, you read the relevant Shastra. Here they are talking about statecraft. Arthashastra is about how to manage a kingdom. And therefore, Arthashastra is not just the tricks that the king will play in order to entice the enemy, in order to trick the enemy. No, Arthashastra is also about what will be the taxation, what will be the bureaucracy, what would be the rate of taxation, what would be the approach of the king to the people. All that is part of Arthashastra. It's not just dirty tricks. She is picking up on dirty tricks department and saying this is against dharma. This is what is our problem. What about the dharma prescribed in Arthashastra that you will normally, even in great stress, not take more than 1/6 of the income as tax.
Correct.
How much is 1/6? How many percent today? 15%.
16.6.
So 15% is the maximum taxation. Tell it to our Jetli Saab, he'll have a heart attack. He'll say, Hurry, nation will become bankrupt if I take 15% tax as maximum.
Because there are only 15% paying the tax.
No, that was a problem always.
Yeah.
Arthashastra also talks about those who evade tax and prescribes how to bring them into the tax net. But in principle, that was the maximum. Of course, for certain areas there was more tax, like the cows raised by the cowers would be 50%. But then the king would take them and preserve them and give them in dan. The king would not make a commerce out of it. So if you see the complicated system, you find that Arthashastra was a far more humane system of economy. There were so many categories of persons who were exempt from tax, officially exempt from tax. Now, Wendy Doniger would call them evil Brahmins who perform Vedic rituals. She would not really take into account the fact that these people had to lead an extremely austere life, that they could not keep anna for more than 3 days in their house. Only 3 days stock could be kept. This was also prescribed, that they could not wear anything on the upper garment except when it was very cold. So if you look upon these things, they were also part of maintaining a healthy state. Similarly, Kama Shastra is about maintaining a healthy life, and it is for people with means. If you see the totality of Kama Shastra, then it is also about good living, having gardens in a city,
Abundance.
all kinds of festivals, all kinds of promotion of arts. It's not just dirty tricks. And just one part of dirty tricks does not subvert dharma totally. What about the other good things that the Shastra prescribe? As I said, the intention is different. Yes,
Balaji,
please.
are you planning to make a book out of your critique? Is it worth it?
No, I don't think I am going to make a book, but I am going to make an article. I wrote an article on her earlier book called Hinduism and Alternative History. You can read it on the net. That article is on the net. Yes.
One question I have is, I'm always struggling with finding which are the books to read. Because if you read the Shastras, if you have found good publications or publication process, can you suggest specifically for a lay audience which Shastra, by which author, by which publishing house?
Yeah. I would say my suggestion always is read the fundamental texts. Now, I'm not saying that learn Sanskrit for 12 years before and so that you are prepared to read a text. Read the text in any language which is familiar to you. Here, if you can get a particular text like Manusmriti in Kannada, then read it in Kannada. I'm sure Manusmriti is available in Kannada, not one but several translations. Don't read it in English, read it in Kannada. If you for some reason are not comfortable in Kannada, then read it in English or any other language. Hindi. Yes, that's the answer.
I'm so sorry, I need to clarify. I'm going to go tomorrow with my Manusmriti in English, a language I'm comfortable with.
Please.
By Wendy Doniger. Is that what it is?
And
Written by Wendy Doniger. That's what it's.
why should you? There are other authors.
I want
There
to
is.
know, because I am always struggling with which name and which author and which publishing house. So please.
No, you will have to ask somebody who knows a bit about Manusmriti. You see, it's like if I have a headache And if somebody says that your headache is because of a pain in the ear, then you go to the ENT specialist. So you'll have to do a little bit of, asking. I mean, if I give you a list, then again that makes very little sense. I mean, all such lists are available on the internet, but you'll have to do a bit of search. Go to a specialist. If you want to read a particular text, then ask him, what should I read? Even I do that. After so many years of study, if there's a particular text, then I ask a specialist which is the best edition, which is the best author, which is the best edition for me, what can I read? That. So that way you will not go and read Donegal's. I mean, look, the fact is, if you want to search something, you will have to do a bit of struggle. It cannot be just given to you like this. I mean, if you want to read an English translation of Manusmriti, there are 3 or 4 available on the internet. You can download, do a Google search, and they'll come. But then you'll have.
Is like reading altered texts or people who are propagandists, and I'm unable to figure that out.
No, they are not altered. The text is text. What you are talking about are books like this.
Interpretation.
Don't read books like this. That's why I always tell people read the text. And all of us cannot read originals because we don't know the language. No point of view. You see, the problem with us in India is we have not for hundreds of years read our own texts.
Yes.
So let us start reading our texts in whatever languages in India we can. And a huge number of translation work has been done in Indian languages.
Oh, I get that. In fact, what he is suggesting is not to read any commentary. Go to the original text. Read Ramayana by.
I'll
Is
give
it
you an
the
example.
Ramayana
I asked somebody, please tell me who are the best historians of Muslim history.
No, just a minute. You asked the wrong question.
I got it.
No, you asked the wrong question. Who are the best historians? Now, the moment you say who are the best, you are asking certain gatekeepers. Why don't you read the histories? Okay, you want to read Muslim history, period history? I'll tell you. If you want to read them in English, read the original translation of the original by Eliot and Dawson in 7 volumes. If you want to read it in Hindi, read it by Atar Abbas Rizvi, published from Aligarh. 13 histories of almost 10 centuries.
I'm familiar with these 2 names, thank you.
Huh.
Can you give me names like this for
Can I?
Can you give me names like this for Arthashastra?
Arthashastra, as I said, is available on the internet. English translation, Chanakya.
What he says is read the original text, not the interpreted versions, not the commentaries, not the bhashyas. It's there. Go for the original author. For example, go for Valmiki if you want to read Ramayana. Don't read my commentary on Ramayana.
I mean, and check what I have said is right or wrong. When you will read Manusmriti, then the question will arise, okay, that professor spoke something, but it's not found here. So go about that. Yes.
It's little related to the topic right now, which is being discussed. I'm sure some of you would have known that, like, for at least not all international agreements, many important international agreements, there is always a French copy, because in French language there is no scope for confusion, no scope for interpretation of different words in a different way. So many important international agreements, there will always be a French copy, so that there is no conflict. So I think Sanskrit is exactly the other opposite. So other opposite in the sense, unless you know the language in and out properly, you cannot understand the meaning, exact meaning what the author is intending to say. So having said this, the main question is, so how can people like Har or David Patnaik or any other person who don't know Sanskrit can comment on such texts which are close to thousands of people's hearts? When they didn't read them in their original form, in the original language.
How can they be authorities?
Yeah. When they know that they have a large audience and many people can get, if it's not a crime, it's I think it's a moral responsibility.
But then that is not a problem with scholarship or Hindu text. That is something which happens, instead of selling original ghee, you sell artificial ghee with a label, pure ghee, pure cow ghee, and inside, I mean, that's the same thing. We have to have a mechanism of now. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, nobody would say that Devdatta Patnaik did not know Sanskrit. Now people are saying it, and they are making their own opinion.
So in German, there is a research on Sanskrit, and they are developing more this thing than our Indian.
See, now that is part of history, because these were colonizing cultures. They studied other cultures. We have not even studied our own culture. First, we should study our own culture and also study their culture. And that can only be done by reading texts.
The Western culture is mainly on hedonism.
Is
Hedonism, rather.
now I don't think we should go into these generalization. See, texts of any tradition, classical texts of any tradition, Eastern, Western, Japanese, Chinese, they are very valuable. They are full of profound wisdom. You should go and find them out, and you should see the difference, and you should see the different approaches. That's what I'm going to speak tomorrow morning. The difference between Greek thought and Indian thought, and also the similarity. So we should have an open mind. The valuable things we should study. Yeah.
Sir, I couldn't understand, the link between Arthashastra, Kama Sutra, and present political dispensation. What is the motive?
As I explained to you that this is her construction.
How is it related to Arthashastra and Kama Sutra?
Because she believes that Arthashastra and Kamashastras were written by scientific people,
Okay.
materialist people, and they believed not in the authority of Manu or Dharma, which is based on concepts like Ishvara or Punarjanma. They were materialists. They were people who just say go and grab, and they only paid lip service to Dharma. And they were the real scientific materialist people. And the materialist people are the important people in India today, and the government today is oppressing them. This is our thesis. Whether it is right or wrong, that's for you to decide. But this is the relationship she makes. To my mind, it's a totally, as I told you, a fictitious relationship.
So there's no relationship.
There is no relationship.
So she
at all.
says the present political dispensation is materialistic and
No, is forcing an artificial insistence on Manu Dharma. It is religious and it is anti-materialist. In other words, what she is saying is that Modi is bad and Marxists are good. That's all. All right. So, but as I say that no honest Indologist would stoop to this level. I mean, you can simply say this as a political statement. I am free to say whichever party I like, but why should I drag and make a whole fictitious discourse about it involving the classical texts? Yes.
Just to extend this thing, Arthashastra itself says that when everyone is uniting against the king is supposedly going on a right path.
No, I don't think Arthashastra
Somewhere it's in those lines.
Arthashastra says any such thing.
Like it's a political.
No, you see, no. This is something which goes in the name of studies of Arthashastra. Arthashastra would never say such silly things.
Is there a need to identify that who are the scholarship? Someone must be sponsoring such scholarships. Like if she is doing something research on it, the scholarship would be coming from somewhere else. So does it need
No,
to?
it is coming from somewhere else. It is coming from America. It is her particular way of thinking, and they are politically aligned people. It's an open fact that and they are declaring it themselves. There is no need for me to say
So
this.
looking inwardly rather than looking outward, if we look at inwardly, that we don't have one central voice. Like we have different Shankaracharya Pithas at different places, and they are not coming out in a single voice. That this is the interpretation, or giving out some interpretation of the religious text. So would it be beneficial for us as a civilization, as a religion, as a dharma, Sanatan Dharma, to have a central tenet, not exactly like something what a Christian church is, but a central voice wherein everyone is speaking in
But
one union.
what will you achieve by it?
Because
Then, in that case, instead of reading the text yourself, you will leave it to a particular religious body or a theological body. You will subvert and destroy your own tradition. Where is the need to do this whole exercise of a central body? India has never approved of that. The most important thing is that people all over read it, people all over study it. In spite of their difference of approach, they should study it themselves. See? Why should they just say that, okay, let us gather in strength? You need gathering of strength for certain purposes. For instance, you need a central excise department in the country or a taxation department. But for thinking process, you need various kinds of traditions, and it never happens. It only happens where it belongs to. And India has all these different centers of learning. They should flourish. What is the point in, you're not making an NCRT book out of Shastras.
I have a question. Sir,
Yeah.
in the academic world now, I have seen another author speaking about Purva Paksha. My question is very simple. Why are people not promoting Purva Paksha, where you debate and win over the opponents? But instead, what I'm seeing is all this peer review thing. This is something new. Because yesterday, I found out something, where the dating of Mahabharata was, there was an argument between two people. Me, I am new. I am trying to understand what it is. But here, one person is published and he's going on what I found out. But the other person, and he claims to be an academician, but he says, I'm not going to debate him. I'll go and write a blog on it. I mean, I don't understand. If you feel that it is wrong, they should counter it. But I don't see that happening
See,
with us.
just one minute.
What
There are
was
two
the-
things you talk about. One is Purva Paksha and the other is debate. See, Purva Paksha is a term which has been popularized by Rajiv Malhotra.
Yeah.
And that term is the first step in any debate. Purva Paksha only means what the opponent says. But if you have a different opinion, then the next step is called Khandan. After you have done the Khandan or a demolition of the Purva Paksha, then you have to bring in something positive. That is called Mandan. You make a construct that, look, these things are not this way but this way. And then you call that construct a principle or a Siddhant. So Purva Paksha, Khandan, Mandan and Siddhant. These are four things which go together. Just Purva Paksha makes no sense. Purva Paksha has become very popular term. But remember that it leads to other three. So there has to be a debate. Now, writing another blog may be a way of making a debate. Somebody may want to debate by writing a blog, somebody may just personally debate, or like I would like to debate, I prefer debate, but then all the time debates cannot happen. I had in 2011 challenged Wendy Doniger to have a public debate with me in a conference in Hawaii, and I had given 6 months' time, and she refused to debate. So I went and gave a demolition. If she had come there, then I would have had a couple of hours of debate with her. But then it cannot happen all the time, and some people don't want to do it. So, in the long run, the debate happens one way or the other, by writing a blog, by writing essays, or actually debating. Yes?
It looks like the extension of the theme of this book is to deny the existence of very Dharma itself.
Yeah.
Yes. By saying the Dharma is the whole set. Two Shastras, what you have quoted, is just a subset of that. She is probably, in my view, based on what you have explained, is trying to project these two subsets independent of the whole set, what is called as Dharma. And say A, B, C, D is independent of alphabets.
Yeah.
And there is no existence of alphabet at all. So there is no concept of Dharma. So this is the leftist concept.
Strategy.
Is
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's what I said. That she does not. She is creating a fictitious opposition.
Disconnection.
And disconnect. And she is presuming that these people belong to the Charvak tradition. Whereas in the Indian tradition, there is no mention, even by Kautilya, that one of my gurus was Charvak. You see, in the Indian tradition, we always mention the tradition we belong to. It's very clearly, Parampara is mentioned. We are proud of mentioning. So if these people had at some place or the other as their gurus, then they would have mentioned them.
But to me, what he said looks quite impressive. Like, even the same thing I was thinking on and on. The problem with us is we are many of us do not put even a small thinking in understanding what the opponent says, the Purva Paksha. Having understood that, unlike the leftist, they have a training, they have an alliance, and they have got a strategic countering. Probably a sort of training, especially amongst youths, and probably taking this as an example. Yes, I thought, at least 10 management graduates, 10 management PhDs, they can give their opinion, taking one aspect. 10, Dharma, some Shastra specialists, a systematic countering.
But that is happening now. Now, ever since the arrival of fresh technology, integrated technology on the mobile phone, and this has begun. Because earlier it was only in the universities, and these people have their monopolies in the universities. But then they have a large number of universities. In India, the universities don't teach these subjects.
Yes,
We are still living in a very, very old colonial world, and no government, including the present one, has tried to make a change in the education policy of the country. And nothing will change unless all these texts are taught in the schools and colleges and PhD. When people will study, and then you will have a large number of specialists and scholars coming from the university. They may have other backgrounds, they may come from IT background, go to the university, take up good degrees in these study of these texts, and then there will be a good debate and a good army. It's an army that can fight an army.
Yeah.
And we have to create that army.
In other words, he's asking if you are hiring apprentices.
Sorry, I missed.
In other words, he's asking if you are hiring apprentices just now. If you are recruiting.
No,
I'm very more specific. In fact,
I wish I had $500 million. I'll do it.
That's the problem.
I'm sure
But
many
it's-
would work pro bono with you.
But why? How can an individual do it? It's a national policy. It's the duty of the government to do it.
looking in the positive part, the looking positively. In fact, I heard your specialization where all you worked. I thought I came to a wrong place. This is the first time I am listening to a person who is within the inverted comma the rightist thought coming from such institutions. Honestly, so there's a positive part. Like
No,
there
this
are
is-
lots of youngsters like him, and there are so many people who are thinking, but they do not know what to do. It need not involve money alone. Like a small group
You
effort,
see, what has happened is this.
some operational strategy.
If you look at it in a historical perspective, we had the Nehruvian era. Nehru was a socialist, a Marxist. Indira Gandhi was under the thumb of Soviet Russia. She installed Nurul Hassan. The Marxists took over all the educational institutions. They have had their field day. Now the tide has begun to turn because so many people outside the formal department of philosophy or history or languages have started studying these texts, and in the social media they are producing work on it. However, unless the universities also make a shift, so therefore what we have to do is to demand from our governments a education policy which includes the classical texts of India, right from the Vedic time to the modern time, irrespective of any religious affiliation. So we are going to study from the Vedas right down till Sri Aurobindo and
In
Aurobindo.
that case, it will be a political link.
And we also study the Quran, we also study the Bible, all that. The problem is that the Indian politician has not acquired the courage to take up the challenge. And he or she will not acquire the courage unless we as people force, unless we make a demand, and unless we come to a strong objection and say no vote unless you bring in a new education policy.
That's the best.
I think we have 6 months to say this to the present government that we want this. It's not a question of us being with you or against you. We are with the nation. This is our heritage. Please, we want heritage to be studied. That's all.
But that could be a politically wrong decision because
Why?
because anyhow others are not going to vote.
Which
Even those
others?
who have voted.
No, it's
But
not a
at
question.
least
It's not a
this-
question of vote, you see. What do you mean by others?
No, I would like to see.
I'll put it very bluntly. There are still 75% Hindus in India.
But they are not.
If 25% start making the demand, things will change. That's all.
Organized.
Nothing else. Organized or disorganized, you have to do it. And you're not asking for something partisan. You are asking for your own tradition. I am not denying anybody. I am not saying don't teach the Quran. But there is only one text called Quran. There are 5,000 texts beginning from Rigved. I am asking for you to teach all of them. I am not excluding anything.
It's a brilliant idea.
It's not that I say make Bhagavad Gita the national book. I say every text which is revered in the heritage of India is a national book,
Not this one.
including this is not a book, this is a
Commentary.
this is a pamphleteer's job.
Why this is not divided upon dharma, artha, kama and moksha, the ultimate thing here.
No,
It
you
is
see,
not dealt on that subject.
The sheep is very rightly taking the earlier part of Trivarga. See, even in the earlier part, even Veda was considered as 3. Atharva was not part of it. Even the Arthashastra talks of 3 Vedas. Anirikshaki Trayi Varta Dandanitishcha iti Vidya. So Trayi means 3 Vedas. So this was it.
How the last one was evolved, and could you please tell something about chronologically how it has, how all the 4 evolved?
Like,
Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha.
look,
Because we were under the impression
no,
it's all-
as I told you that they added moksha because what happens is that when you want to highlight something, then you give a name to it. So earlier it was considered that moksha is part of dharma, artha and kama. That if you follow dharma, artha and kama, all 3, then moksha will automatically result. But then a time came when people became concentrated on the otherworldliness in the national or in the cultural discourse. And so they said, let's call this, let us draw attention to this, and hence they added moksha.
Sir, I have a question. Coming back to the book. So I'm told that in a spiritual tradition, every book starts with a description of the qualifications of student, like Adhikari, who is Adhikari. So in Shankara Bhashya, Shankara text we normally see that. So my first question is, does Kama Sutra and Arthashastra also mention such a category of Adhikari? And my second point is related to, you mentioned that Bendy Doniga is trying to say that there were no Charvakas and it is a fictive.
No, in reality there were none.
Yeah, it was Brahmana's fiction that Charvakas existed. Now, my question is, can't we refute it very easily by telling that the Buddhist text and the Jaina text also mentions about Charvaka, and I'm again told that it was the Buddhas who spent most of their lives disproving the Charvakas.
For her logic, Buddhas and Jainas are doing the same thing. They are looking for what is called in English straw man. That there was no such person, they invented him so that they could argue against.
So it was a common conspiracy.
Yeah, it was a national conspiracy. Yeah.
But this gives rise to a beautiful question. How to prove logically the existence of Charvakas?
No, we are not proving there is no existence.
No, we are not doubting. It is she who is doubting.
It's okay. I mean, if you think from an absolute point perspective, so
Yeah.
in an argument,
The Charvakas are mentioned, but she says that this is not history.
no, I'm not going with her.
Huh.
See, I'm coming with an absolute question from zero reference. Is there an existence of Charvakas?
Yes,
Is
they
it
are
a reality?
mentioned.
Is it a reality? If so, how to
No, you
some
see,
logical proof?
you see, it's like this. I have a picture of my, let's say, grandfather. And my father has told me that this is your grandfather. Suppose if I make up my mind to say that no, how do I know he was my grandfather? Now, modern science will say that okay, if you have something from your grandfather on which we can perform a DNA test, then perhaps we will be able to determine. Otherwise, it's a matter of belief that what I think that there is a picture, that there is a name, that there are references, that everybody in the family says so, and still I say no, give me a proof.
No,
So it's the same kind of argument. It is she who has created this argument that there were no Charvakas, and this is a conspiracy on the part of believers and astikas to create nastikas.
Balaji, what are the 3 things we should do to engage with the BJP government to make sure our education system includes all this? What are the 3 things according to you? And I hope at least the members who are here will work towards to make sure the 3 steps gets implemented.
Well, first of all, write open letters to the Prime Minister.
Okay.
Number 1. Number 2, write open letters to all your representatives here.
Okay.
At the level of municipal council, at the level of legislature, at the level of MPs. That, and tell them that this whole kind of false assurance that new education policy is coming, and Kasturi Rangan is about to submit his report is not enough.
Okay.
Fix a date. It should come by 30th of September.
Okay.
If it doesn't come, and if it is not a radically different one, then we consider it as non-existent.
Job not done.
Job not done. And it should be, you can make this on media.
Okay.
You can make this a demand in public discourse. And I think it's going to make a difference.
Okay. And Bharatji, why is that the right wingers are not engaging with Modi ji frequently? Once in 2 months, why are you folks like you, Shifali Vaidya, Sankrant, why are you all not meeting Yogi ji and Narendra Modi ji to make it happen? Because I always believe in...
Who is not meeting?
You folks
No, I have done what I am suggesting to you. I did this 8 months ago or something like that. I wrote a petition to the Prime Minister. It is also on the net. You can discover it. And I got a reply that he will give you, that it will be presented to him. But nothing happened. Because
secular.
no, it has nothing to do with secular. See, the debate whether it is secular or non-secular will begin only if you exclude somebody.
Yeah.
If you are just asking for inclusion of all the revered text, including the Muslim and the Christian text, then where is the question of secular versus non-secular?
Is there a link to that submission?
I think any intelligent man will understand that including the Quran and the Bible as texts to be paid attention to and studied is in Hindu interest.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, you said it.
We all know this.
Yes.
And we all know that exclusive study of Christian texts by the so-called minorities is not in national interest, not even in their own interest, because that keeps them in bondage of certain political, theological leadership. It is in the interest of everybody to read all the texts. It is in the interest of Hindus to read their Hindu texts, to read the texts of Christians and Muslims, to compare, to talk about, to discuss, to question, and vice versa. What is wrong with it? To say that this will create bad blood, that this will create confusion, that this will be anti-secular, I think that such an approach is only illogical, and that approach perhaps has a secret intention of being anti-religious. That you don't want religious texts to be studied in India. It is only a hard-boiled atheist who can make such demand. And I think the so-called education policy of the country was made by anti-religious people.
Indeed.
They did not have the interest of religion and religious people in their minds.
Contextual point, the people who ran the education ministry since independence, there were stalwarts like Maulana Abdul Kalam,
Jawaharlal Nehru, Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad, Gadgil, so many of them.
They were also practicing Muslims, practicing Christians, etc. They all wrote that So they were practicing their own religion, but I think they wanted to control or rather they were afraid if I'm going to make it the majority, whatever the tradition in the country, then we are not going to have space. Or they sort of made a concocted view and continued the following model. They did not give credence to the traditionalists, the pundits, the traditional bodies of knowledge.
Well, as I look at it, this was largely because of Jawaharlal Nehru. Jawaharlal Nehru was a Fabian socialist. He, according to his doctrine, which is a version of Marxism, religion is dangerous, it is irrational. He could not say this openly, but he perhaps wanted that the majority of people in this country should not study religion. That may have been his motive. Or even if it was not his motive, that was the result of his actions. So I think it has been a big political battle. And largely because of Jawaharlal Nehru, we ended up with this problem. Otherwise, logically, there was no need to have Articles 28, 9 and 30. Because if it is beneficial for 25 people to study religion, so-called minority or less number of people to study religion, then it is beneficial for a larger number of people. What has number got to do with it?
Absolutely.
If 5 people can study religion and benefit from it, then 5,000 can also do it. It's so simple. It's only that you wanted to make a discrimination. It was willful discrimination because of certain ideological motivations. And the ideological motivation was to promote atheism in India. Because that was the Marxist philosophy. And that was the underlying intention of Jawaharlal Nehru.
He also did not know that he was being used by global interests.
No, I don't think he was being used by anybody. It was his own
design.
Will, his own design.
Can I ask a second question? Sorry. This has always bothered me, very compelling to me personally. Why are Hindu texts, Hindu ideologies, Hindu philosophies, anything that goes by the name of Hindu, either on the back or the front cover, always called to question by non-practitioners of Hinduism, and they become very popular, Bendy Doniger, Shedon, anybody. On the other hand, none of the Hindus or none of the non-practitioners of, let's say, the two other major religions, Islam or Bible, none of the non-practitioners are allowed to write a commentary like this, however inferior the quality and the content and the construct. It is just Hinduism that is available for such a task.
Yes, that is true, partly. Although there are lots of ex-Muslims who are writing about Islam now, or non-practicing people in the sense that they were Muslims once and they have they are they have practicing apostasy now.
You're not talking about Salman Rushdie, isn't it here?
Well,
I mean, look what happened
I'm
in
thinking more of what is her name?
Taslima,
and there is another. No, there is another lady.
Ayana Ishtial.
There are several. There are several people, but this is because of the Indian colonial situation.
But you are talking about people who are Muslims, ex-Muslims writing about Islamic culture.
Yeah.
I'm talking about non-Hindu writing about Hindu.
Because study of Hinduism in last 200 years has been done by colonial non-Hindus. That's it. It was studied always in Oxford, in Harvard, in places by people who were governing us. and who were not practicing that religion. So, because we did not have any control over our institutions, and even when we acquired control with independence, we chose to toe the line because we have such a huge Anglophonic bureaucracy, a huge Anglophonic judiciary, and Anglophonic academic bureaucracy. So they are the ruling classes.
It's English apartheid.
Huh?
It's English apartheid.
Yes, I mean in India the biggest apartheid is Anglophones versus the rest. I am a ex-professor of English literature. I made my living by teaching English literature. And I have been to the best schools and colleges in this country. And I know the inside story. The only division is those who know English and those who don't know English.
English is equal.
English is equal to the ruling class. There is no other reality. The hegemonizers are those who know English. It is not Dalit versus the rest. It is not OBC versus the rest. It is not ST-SC versus the rest. It is not even Hindu versus Muslim. It is only English versus non-English people. That's the reality of it.
I have something to add on to the. In my opinion, what I felt is my own family member. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I talked about history, why we've become this. There is a thought process, there is an awakening, seeing what happened to us. I was talking about it. The first thing that I got in response was, why are you speaking about history? No, don't. There is no use for it.
Yeah.
But my point was, unless you know what happened to us, who did what to us, you can't proceed because our past actions actually have led us here. But nobody is ready to agree to that. That was the whole point. I'm struggling, me against the entire group.
But the fact that in your family you have awakened is already a sign of awakening to me.
Well, this has happened all over the country now. And,
Not alone.
and it is, it is like, after all, there were empires, like there was a Mughal empire, but it fell. So there is the Anglophonic empire in India, it is falling.
And that awakening had actually come from a person in US, he asked me a question, America has been for 200 years or what, I was in support. So I was working on something, we had some time, he asked, America has been there for 200 years or what, we are on top of the world. And your civilization has been for thousands of years. Why is that? We are on top of it.
But that's a very different area of investigation. Yeah, there was a question here. Yes.
सर, आप एग्री करते हो कि जो शास्त्र हैं वो एक तपस्या के बल पर या कोई स्पिरिचुअल अटेनमेंट के बाद इंटरप्रेट हुए हैं हम सबके लिए? आप एग्री करते हो इस बात?
देखिए, हाँ बैठिए. इसमें सच्चाई ये है कि what is tapa? You see, tap is not only Brahma Gyan. Tap is not only pursuing moksha. When I do study of a shastra for 30 years or 40 years, and I do it all my life, am I not doing tapa? You see, we confuse tapa with only paramartha, with the final pursuit, with giving up of the world, with tyaga of the world. Now this is wrong. All the shastras are for worldly concerns. For spiritual Brahma Gyan, there are Upanishads. So you have to read Upanishads for Brahma Gyan. Shastras are not to be equated. Natya Shastra does not give you Brahma Gyan, it gives you the information as to how to dance and perform drama and other things. but it has a spiritual content also. But the practical art is in this world. That is where artha and kama are part of that dharma. What is the dharma of a dancer? To dance. The dharma of a dancer is not to give up the world and go to Himalayas and seek and become a disciple of a yogi. You had something to say.
आपकी जो डेफिनेशंस है या कोई भी आज जो रूम में डिस्कशन हो रहा है वो सिर्फ एक सिस्टम हमें दी गई है वर्डली फॉर्म में। मैं भी बात कर रहा हूँ वर्ड से कर रहा हूँ, वर्ड से आप तक पहुँच रहे हैं। सिस्टम दी गई है और उसी में हम खेल रहे हैं। लेकिन ये जो इंटरप्रिटेशंस हैं, शास्त्र हैं, वेद हैं, जो भी मिले हैं, वो स्पिरिचुअल अटेनमेंट के बाद इंटरप्रेट हुए हैं हम सब के लिए हाउ टू लिव लाइफ। अगर कामा सूत्र की बात करें,
नहीं, जैसे आप कह रहे हो कि स्पिरिचुअल अटेनमेंट के बाद हुए हैं, तो मैं आपसे ये सवाल पूछ रहा हूँ, व्हाट इज द नेचर ऑफ दैट स्पिरिचुअल अटेनमेंट? यू सी, द नेचर ऑफ दैट स्पिरिचुअल अटेनमेंट इज डिफरेंट फॉर डिफरेंट शास्त्र। बैठो। फॉर इंस्टेंस, देयर वाज अ स्पिरिचुअल, बैठिए, देयर वाज अ स्पिरिचुअल अटेनमेंट ऑफ याज्ञवल्क, and Yagyavalik says something, let us say, in a particular Upanishad. There he is talking of Brahma Jnana. Right? That is the particular purpose of that Shastra or that Upanishad. Now, there are different areas of knowledge. And different people have pursued those areas of knowledge. To say that first of all there was somebody who attained Brahma Gyan, then he gave us Manusmriti, then he gave us Natshas, then he gave us Gandharva Shastra, or then he gave us the Shastra of fighting. This is wrong. Brahma Gyan is for Brahmarshi. He pursues that particular area and he writes a text related to that this is what I have attained, this is the system that I have followed. And Brahma Vidya, this is it, and this is the Upanishad. These are known as Upanishads. But then there are Lokik texts for Lokik. Yeah.
मेरे लिए ये उपनिषद, वेद या शास्त्र जो है ये वर्डली फॉर्म में है सिर्फ।
वर्ड मतलब इन वर्ड्स, शाब्दिक।
हाँ,
शाब्दिक। हाँ।
एक्चुअली स्पिरिचुअल अटेनमेंट इट डजंट मीन दैट उन्होंने तपस्या की और ये शास्त्र मुझे लिखना है, या काम शास्त्र मुझे, काम शास्त्र से ही स्पिरिचुअल अटेनमेंट, मोक्ष की प्राप्ति हो सकती है। वैसे भी है, आचार्य रजनीश ने उन्होंने भी बताया है उसमें उनके तंत्र में, और शिव स्वरोदय तंत्र
ना उनकी जो किताब है संभोग से समाधि था, आप उसकी बात कर रहे हैं।
शिव स्वरोदय तंत्र भी वही बोलता है कि लाइफ कैसे जी जा सकती है, बॉडीली कैसे मोक्ष अटेन किया जा सकता है।
अच्छा, ठीक है, मैं समझ गया, लेकिन इतना तो आप मानेंगे कि अगर संभोग से समाधि पर हम जा सकते हैं तो संभोग कैसे करना है इसका भी तो कोई शास्त्र होगा, वही तो वात्स्यायन है। बस
That's part of my actually ये जो मैं बोल रहा हूँ ये रिजल्ट्स हैं एक तपस्या के
भाई तपस्या के हैं, बट वो तप का क्या मतलब? तो बैठिए, तप का मतलब होता है great attention and concentration on something, but that great attention and concentration is always in an area. जिसको ब्रह्मज्ञानी बनना है वो एक प्रकार की तपस्या करेगा, रमन महर्षि की तरह, श्री अरविंद की तरह। जिसको कामशास्त्र लिखना है वो दूसरे किस्म की तपस्या करेगा, वो जिन्होंने पहले लिखे हैं उनको पढ़ेगा, जगह जगह जाके देखेगा कि क्या हो रहा है दुनिया में, कैसे कैसे लोग काम की साधना कर रहे हैं, क्या क्या लिख रहे हैं, तो वो भी एक तपस्या है। तो तप का फल तो एक शास्त्र बिना तप के नहीं हो सकता, लेकिन एक कोई स्पिरिचुअल तप होता है, सो कॉल्ड स्पिरिचुअल या आध्यात्मिक, उसके ही रिजल्ट से सारे शास्त्र उत्पन्न हो जाते हैं, ऐसा नहीं है। ये एक बिल्कुल गलत धारणा है। कैसे हो जाएगा? आपको फिजिसिस्ट बनना है तो आप पहले फिजिक्स को परस्यू करेंगे, मेडिसिन का जानना है तो आप मेडिसिन को करेंगे।
इसी वजह से ध्यान, मेडिटेशन ये जो है या धर्म में जो हम बोलते हैं कि अनापान, बुद्ध ने बोला
क्या
अनापान यानी श्वास पे ध्यान देना, ऑटोमेटिकली हो रहा है वो श्वास पे ध्यान देना। तो ये कंसंट्रेट कर रहे हैं, वहाँ पे हम अपना मन रख रहे हैं श्वास पे और मन विलीन हो रहा है, सिर्फ श्वास चल रही है, बॉडी रिफॉर्म, बॉडी में जीने के लिए।
अच्छा, मान लिया
वो जो है
फिर क्या होगा?
मेडिटेशन है। उसके बाद वो एनर्जी, वो सुप्रीम एनर्जी जो चैतन्य हमें है, हम इंडियन फिलोसॉफी है, वर्ल्डली फिलोसॉफी जो है एक्चुअली वो चैतन्य हम है, अहम ब्रह्मास्मि जो बोलते हैं, उसके साथ हम कनेक्ट हो जाते हैं। हम नहीं रहते तो कोई एनर्जी रहती है,
मान लिया सब
डायरेक्ट करती है।
किसको, किस चीज के लिए?
यस, हमारे प्रेजेंस को।
अरे भाई, उससे काम शास्त्र तो नहीं लिख दोगे?
हाँ, उससे ही होता है।
दैट इज ऑल बुलशिट, सॉरी टू से दिस टू यू। आपको किसी ने बेवकूफ बनाया, बैठ जाइए। ऐसा कहीं नहीं लिखा है, ना कहीं परंपरा है। हर शास्त्र के पढ़ने वाले की एक परंपरा होती है। आपने सुना है कि रमन महर्षि ने एक फिजिक्स की लैब पैदा कर दी? विश्वामित्र ने जो है वो उन्होंने क्या कहते हैं, अस्त्र शस्त्र की फैक्ट्री कैसे बनेगी? विश्वामित्र तो क्षत्रिय थे, इसलिए वो अस्त्र चलाना जानते थे। वशिष्ठ तो नहीं थे, वशिष्ठ ने तो नहीं, आप द्रोणाचार्य को ब्राह्मण थे लेकिन उन्होंने सीखा था परशुराम से। कोई भी विद्या, ये बिल्कुल बहुत बड़ा भ्रम है, इसमें मत पढ़िए कि अगर हम ब्रह्म ज्ञान कर लेंगे तो ब्रह्म ज्ञान में सारी विद्याएं हमको प्राप्त हो जाएंगी। ये हिंदुओं को बेवकूफ़ बनाने का सबसे अच्छा फार्मूला है। ब्रह्म ज्ञान के पीछे चलोगे तो ब्रह्म ज्ञान मिलेगा, और जिस डिसिप्लिन के लिए जाना है उस डिसिप्लिन के थ्रू आपको जाकर, हाँ, आपको हर डिसिप्लिन में जाकर जीवन की अवेयरनेस और अंडरस्टैंडिंग मिलेगी। आपको उसकी अलग अलग स्टेजेस मिलेंगी। अगर मैं पढ़ रहा हूँ तो पहले मैं पढ़ूँगा, वर्ल्डली सक्सेस होगा, फिर एक अवेयरनेस आएगी कि पढ़ लिखने के बाद भी मैं कितना कम जानता हूँ, तो विरक्ति पैदा होगी, वैराग्य होगा। लेकिन उस वैराग्य को बढ़ाकर ब्रह्म ज्ञान तक जाने के लिए ब्रह्म विद्या की साधना करनी पड़ेगी। हर साधना अलग है, एक साधना करने से सारे फल प्राप्त नहीं हो जाते, ऐसा कहीं नहीं है। और ये तो रजनीश ने भी नहीं कहा है, किसी ने नहीं कहा है। आपके किसी के टेक्स्ट को देखिए, हर विद्या को आप पढ़ेंगे उसके डिसिप्लिन के थ्रू आप सीखेंगे। ऐसा नहीं है कि हमारे ऋषि मुनि जो थे उनको सब कुछ, क्या वो जो कहा जाता है कि वो सर्वज्ञ थे, सर्वज्ञानी थे, तो वो एक रूपक है, वो एक लाक्षणिक बात है। लेकिन ब्रह्म ज्ञानी ही अगर सब कुछ कर देते तो ये बाकी ज्ञान करने की जरूरत ही क्या? ऐसा हो ही नहीं सकता। बहुत बड़ा म्यूजिशियन होता है, वो उसको संगीत की साधना होती है, वो थोड़े मैथमेटिक्स लिख देता है। उसकी तो एक एरिया होता है, बस वो 3 ताल बजाएगा या रूपक ताल या क्या कहते हैं आपके जो इधर कर्नाटक में होते हैं मिश्र चापू ताल और ये सब, यही बजाएगा। ही कांट बिकम और शी कांट बिकम अ म्यूजिशियन। तो सुबोलक्ष्मी बनेगी। आप इसको समझिए, भारत की अलग विद्याएं हैं, उन सबको आपको साध कर अलग अलग लोगों को अपनी अपनी प्रकृति के अनुसार करना हो। सब ब्रह्मज्ञानी कैसे हो जाएंगे? सब में तो वो कैपेसिटी नहीं है। पहले मैं ब्रह्मज्ञानी बन जाऊं, सारी विद्याएं जान लूं, फिर मैं सब विद्याओं के शास्त्र लिख दूं। ऐसा तो हाँ कहीं इतिहास में भी नहीं। यानी इन शास्त्रों के प्रणेताओं ने भी नहीं लिखा है। उन्होंने ये तो लिखा है कि ये ईश्वर से आती है, तो ईश्वर से तो सब कुछ आता है। वो तो ब्रह्मा से सब कुछ ही, सारी क्रिएशन ही ब्रह्मा से आ रही है। लेकिन हर शास्त्र के अलग गुरु हैं, अलग गुरु परंपरा है, और अलग हर शास्त्र का देवता है किसी शास्त्र के देवता जो है वो शिव हैं, किसी शास्त्र के देवता विष्णु हैं, वगैरह वगैरह, और ऋषि परंपराएं हैं। तो ये सब प्रैक्टिकल चीज़ें थी। ये ब्रह्म ज्ञान से कुछ नहीं हो जाता है। ये ब्रह्म ज्ञान से तो ये मॉडर्न बाबा बनते हैं जो आइलैंड खरीद लेते हैं, ये कर लेते हैं, वो कर लेते हैं।
मोक्ष अटेन हो सकता है बिना बजाने से, या चलते हुए खुद को ऑब्जर्व करने से, या श्वास पे ध्यान रखने से?
देखिए, मोक्ष अटेन का मतलब क्या है? कौन सा मोक्ष?
प्रेजेंट
नहीं, मोक्ष का मतलब है कि दुख से छुटकारा। यही तो मोक्ष का अर्थ है ना। नहीं, अब फॉर मी एंड यू मत करिए, जो हमारे टेक्स्ट में लिखा है। देखिए बात सुनिए, अगर दुख नहीं होता तो दुनिया के अंदर इतने लोग कराह रो नहीं रहते। अब आप कहोगे नहीं ये तो सब भ्रम है, तो ये एक कहने का तरीका है। ये सिर्फ ऐसा हम कहते हैं कि अरे आप तो महान हैं, इसका मतलब ये तो नहीं है कि आप 50 फीट के। उसकी फिगरेटिव यूज देखिए। जब दुख नहीं है या संसार नहीं है तो किसके लिए नहीं है? जो ब्रह्मज्ञानी है उसके लिए नहीं है ना। मेरे और तुम्हारे लिए तो है। अब मेरे सिर पे अगर डंडा पड़ेगा तो खून निकलेगा, तो मेरे लिए तो दुख है ना। रमन महर्षि के लिए नहीं था, उन्होंने कहा चलो बिना एनेस्थीसिया लिए मैं अपना ऑपरेशन करा ले। आप समझ गए? तो सिर्फ कह देने से, सिद्धांत को बता देने से कुछ नहीं हो जाता। चीनी मीठी होती है तो मेरे मुंह में तो नहीं आ गई चीनी। तो यही चीज है, स्वानुभूति जब जिसको होगी उसके लिए दुख नहीं है, मेरे तुम्हारे लिए है।
सर कैन वी से
तो आपका जो प्रश्न है ना वो आपको रमन महर्षि से पूछना चाहिए।
हाँ
राइट,
he is right, I am the wrong person.
एक्सपर्ट इन द फील्ड। तो आपका जो प्रश्न है मोक्ष के बारे में, तो आप रमन महर्षि जैसे लोग से पूछना चाहिए।
ये बात सही है। अभी जो हमारा डिस्कशन
who want to thank you, I gave you a lot of time. There are others who want to ask some questions.
I think is ultimate solace in a particular discipline which is devoid of conflicts. Can we just say that as a salvation?
Can you repeat your
the ultimate solace in a particular discipline which is devoid of conflicts?
Yeah,
that could be the
moksha of that discipline. That is the moksha of that particular discipline.
Yeah.
But there are various kinds of mokshas. There is not one kind of just moksha. Moksha is from something. So if there are different things, then there will be different mokshas. Well, I think I must thank you all, and particularly Srijan Foundation, and for you to coming here, for having this long, nice discussion. And this only shows that we are going to change. Thank you.